very exciting.
We're live now.
Oh,
Hi,
we
Cara.
hi. We have a very exciting show tonight. Our unfortunately our guest could not be here, but we're sending her love. She just couldn't make it, and so Debbie and I are going to just carry on and talk about haunted mansions of America.
So fun. I had to do my homework on all of this, which is a lot of fun. And the first house that we're going to go to, I have personal experience there. So I go to it a lot because it's in Southern California. And I have a little twist though on it tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and get my stuff together. I want to say hi to everybody that's watching. Say hello to us. Let us
Yes,
know where you're from, and if do you have any special haunted houses or special ghost stories. Um, okay, Kara, we're going to be talking about at least three houses tonight, right?
yes. We have three amazing houses.
Always fun. And you and I both have lived in haunted houses before, so we know what we're speaking about.
Every single house. I have not been able to get away from it.
Hi,
Hi, Angela.
Angela. And look at there's Kate. Say hi to Kate.
Hi, Kate.
There. Cutest dog there.
Oh,
We're going
yeah.
to go ahead and probably just get started because of all
Yeah.
these fun things. And I'm going to bring up the picture of the Whaley House for you guys. And here we go. Okay. Now, this is a photo of when it looked really nice because it's been in disrepair many times since around the mid 1800s. And so let me guys tell you, it's known as one of the most notorious haunted houses in the world. And it's featured in movies and television series and is located in Old Town, downtown San Diego, California. One of the things about San Diego, it had New Town and it had Old Town. And so this actually was the oldest part of San Diego, in which we have the very first house in San Diego, which was like an adobe. And you can to this day go and tour it and go to all the shops in the old buildings. We have old Victorians here. And then we have the Whaley House, which is a certified haunted house. There's not a lot of them. You think there's a whole bunch of them in the United States. There's not a lot, but this is one. And so what I want to show you is a little bit crazy, but it happens everywhere. Scattered and littered among the sidewalks and in the middle of the street, and it's a whole bunch of Old Town, is are these little markers, and they're like brass or something like that, bronze, and they say gravesite. And that's because, even though they had a lot of property, they had the town, and there happened to be buried people there, a cemetery, so they paved over them and made roads and built houses over actual historical burial sites, which they did a lot in San Diego. And the first time I ever heard this happening, I was like, just I couldn't believe it. In Pioneer Park, which isn't that far away from there, the whole park has dead people under it. And the people picnic and they barbecue and they do everything. The priests are under the cars, under the asphalt, in the parking lot. So you will see on this, in front of the Whaley House and going down the street, those little markers saying there's a dead person under there.
Whoa.
So, and if you walk in the street, you'll see it. Down up the street a little bit is a little cemetery that is extremely haunted. I think more haunted than the Whaley House, where we've seen like a ghost drag on a cigarette and smoke it and all kinds of stuff. People have been scratched, pinched, and pushed and all kinds of things. So back to the Whaley House. Behind that building, I didn't get a picture tonight of it, are two old trees of which they did the hangings because part of the Whaley House was a courthouse. So they just take them out back and hang them up. So that's very morbid, but true. So the Whaley House was the home of Thomas Whaley and his family. They had a general store in there, and it was the second county courthouse in San Diego, and it actually has a theater. I wasn't able to get the picture of the theater, but it was really cute. I've been there. And so when you go up where that balcony is, they will have a theater set up, a stage, very little, with some wooden chairs. And the first time that they had the theater, it was standing room only. And even though they had just a dozen chairs, I think they had 125 people up there, I think they said. It was incredible. So everyone really loved having that theater. But one of the tragedies that happened is the manager of the theater, he died 17 days after it opened, which was crazy. So it didn't last too long, but they still have the complete theater in there. Now, Thomas and Anna moved into the house in 1853, and a lot of things happened. There was fires. It ravaged the building. All kinds of things happened. So the family left San Diego and went up north. Meanwhile, they fixed the property up, and they did end up returning. But crazy things happened in this house. So they did have 6 children. One of the babies died at 18 months. I think that was scarlet fever. And there was something that happened to one of the girls, Violet. So let me go ahead and bring up some of the pictures. This is Mrs. Whaley, and this is one of her daughters, I think it says. And so there was one of her daughters, Violet, was just married, and her husband came and told her he was kind of a scoundrel and he had a past and everything. Well, that got out, and so Violet's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Whaley, they severed contact with him, kept them apart. And Violet was they call it melancholy. She was very depressed, and she committed suicide by shooting herself in the chest with her father's .32 caliber gun on August 19th, 1885. In her suicide note, she wrote, it's a passage from a book, Mad from Life's History, Swift to Death's Mystery, glad to be hurled anywhere out of this world. And that is from the Bridge of Sighs. And she wrote her suicide note. So when she killed herself, then her sister Corinne was engaged. And this was another scandal. And so they pulled out of the marriage. And so Corinne didn't get married. And so after all this was happening here in the house, they decided they had built a new house down in New San Diego, and they moved there for a while. And I will tell you that the family ended up restoring the house again. Now, this house was like Greek revival, and it was a lot of bricks, and it just needed a lot of repair all the time. They still fix it up, right? And but some of the surviving members moved back, including Anna, the mother, who lived to be 80 years old. So nowadays, it ended up being a tourist attraction, and several of the buildings around it were brought in they were going to be demolished, and they were historic, so they brought them in and put them around that building. Now, the people that go in there and take a tour, they mostly see Thomas and Anna Whaley. And I'm going to tell you a personal story. I had a boyfriend that was a very good medium, and we went there for the first time. And when he walked into the courthouse and everything, he walked around, he said, the only person in here is her. and that was Anna Whaley he was pointing to. And
Wow.
then we went upstairs, which is very creepy going up there, and we looked into the bedroom and we could see the drapes going and then something in the other drapes and coming back and forth and running around. And he said, there's a little dog here. And indeed, the docent later, we said, is there a dog running around here? And she said, yes. And I think the dog's name was Dolly. They had a dog named Dolly that would run around the house. So that was kind of neat. And I want to tell you, it's really known. It has such rich history that it's well known around here as a haunted house. And they usually see a baby, Thomas Jr., or Violet, or Anna, Francis, George, or Corinne. And but you guys can believe me, or you can believe someone else. And so let me tell you who has a story about seeing a ghost. Regis Philbin. Regis Philbin lived here in San Diego. He's from San Diego, and he was in the military and all that. And he was on our local news, and he got a talk show. And we loved, before all of you got him, we got him. And so I grew up, watching him on television. Well, he decided he was tired of the same old people that were coming in and the same things that they were talking about. He wanted something different. And he saw something about a ghost hunter called Hans Holzer. And so he invited him on the program with a very famous medium. And Sybil Leek, I don't know if any of you old timers know her name, but she was a very well-known, one of the first famous mediums. Regis calls her until his dying day, the witch. She was a witch. He says there was a witch with him. And I'm like, she was a medium. Anyway, they came on a program, and Regis did say that we have a haunted house here. And so Hans hypnotized her, and I had a picture. Let me see. Here it is. Hans hypnotized Sybil. And the lady, June, I think it's Havoc. She was a kind of an actress, I think. And I hope I got her name right. She's on the blonde on the left. Sybil went into a trance, and so Hans asked her about a haunted house here in San Diego, and she said, well, there's a woman there, and she has a husband and cigar smoke. He's smoking, and her name is Anna, and her daughter killed herself. So that really piqued the audience. It was one of the most successful shows that everybody loved it, that Regis Philbin had. And so Regis, let me go back to him. So what happened is Regis got together with his Marine friend, and I think he called him the Colonel. And he said, hey, do you want to go to a haunted house? And we'll stay the night there. And he goes, I don't believe in that. But yeah, okay, I got time. We'll go. So Regis and this guy, his friend, the Colonel, they went to the Whaley House. And they went ahead and they got the people out. They said, we don't want anybody else with us. And so they got him out, and they locked him in. And so they turned the lights down and everything. Regis had a flashlight and all of that, and nothing happened. And Regis went up the stairs, and he goes, I smell cigars, smoke. And so that was about all they got. They went back downstairs, and they were setting. And they go, let's just turn the lights all the way out. They turned the lights all the way out, and not much happened. And then Regis's friend, the Colonel, goes, this is a waste of time. This is a complete waste of time. And then he didn't say anything until he yelled out, don't turn the light. Don't turn off the light. And Regis looked up, and there was an apparition of a woman. Uh, you could see through her. You could see her feet. So she's like standing up, but she had no feet. And the guy who didn't believe anything dropped to the ground and he started crawling, crawling and pulling himself so that he wouldn't interrupt any light or anything because he was going to go touch the apparition. But there it was. And Regis got so excited. He goes, I got so excited. And I just couldn't believe it. But there was a ghost there. This woman was standing at the wall. There's like an arch, and the lady was standing there. And he said to this day, he has he's passed now. But he goes, to that day when he was recounting this on television, he goes, I regret that I held my hand out and I turned on the flashlight. He said the colonel, was right there where the apparition was to go reach out. And he said, I just went and turned it on and it went away.
Oh.
And he goes, he said, I just got overly excited. And the colonel, he was fuming mad at him. He was so mad because he made that apparition just go. And he was investigating. He didn't believe in this. And he wasn't scared. And he got down. He was just going to crawl to it and reach out. And Regis turned the light on. So that was really bad. But what was there in the light, what was on the wall behind this apparition that was floating, was a portrait of Anna Whaley. That was her face, the portrait. And so I think I have it here. And there you go.
No, that's Sarah Winchester.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anna is right here. There we go. I'm on the wrong row. There we go. So Anna was a portrait of her that hangs in the house was there. And so she was the ghost that Regis saw. And again, I was like so disappointed that he said he turned the light on. Now, if you guys want to watch his story and him talking about it, he's on Celebrity Ghost Stories, Season 3, Episode 1 on Amazon Prime. And
awesome.
So, I mean, this is just absolutely fantastic that they went and they got to see that. It was so neat. And so anyway, he believes wholeheartedly in ghosts. And but I thought I would give a little twist there that there was actually a celebrity. I think that everybody would know that actually was there and got to see that. So that's my story on the Whaley House. It is open for tours, and the docents wear authentic clothing, and you can take your K2 meters and all of that. You can go sit in the theater, and you can walk around the whole house. And a lot of people take pictures outside using the old glass in the windows. Some of those houses downtown in New San Diego, we have Victorians in which there was a very rich family. And you can go to one of the windows and you will see the two little girls had diamond rings. They were so rich. And they put their names, they scratched their names into the glass. But a lot of people take pictures to try to get a picture of a spirit. So a lot of fun in San Diego, lots of haunted places. If you guys are here, send me a message. Maybe I can meet up with you.
And we do have to say hi to Tylene, Debbie, and Louise, who joined us while you were telling us about the Whaley House.
Hi, everybody.
And, there's one thing that I do know about the Whaley House is after he built it and they moved in, do you know that the family heard footsteps from the first night they were there? They heard movement. So I think there was something already there on that property when he built it, which is scary.
Yeah, it was the Adobe Ranch, the original. It encompassed a lot of property.
Yeah.
And And of course, then came the cemetery. So they had buried people all over the place and cemeteries just down the street. And and then it just, grew. But there's been a lot of voices and a lot of noises in there, and all kinds of things, and happening, and it's just a fun place to go, just like other places like Savannah, Georgia, and stuff. We have our ghost tours, the Charlie ghost tours, and I have a good friend that leads some of those, and it's just full of spirits and a lot of paranormal activity. So it's always fun to go.
That is awesome.
Okay.
And
we have another house coming up.
It's actually the Crenshaw Manor or Crenshaw House, but it's actually been named the Old Slave House. It has a very dark and, quite frankly, horrendous history. It was built in 1838 by John Crenshaw, who was just the most evil of evil men ever to be born. I mean, just a rotten human being. I can't even say human. He was subhuman. He owned salt works, which are like salt mines here in southern Illinois, and they were in equality. Now, Illinois was a free state. However, at that time, they could lease slaves from Kentucky to work in the salt mines for them. That wasn't enough for John Crenshaw. He turned his house, and that's why it's called Old Slave House, he turned it into part of the reverse railroad. He would kidnap born free, black men, women, and children. And see that window up at the top in the attic there? He had 12 stalls going down on each side of this center row, where he would hold people before he could transport them to Kentucky to sell them. And then he had two, what he called breeding studs. One was named Uncle Bob, and the other one was named Big Jim. And he would force them to have relations with women to impregnate them to make more babies so that he could sell more slaves.
Jeez.
He was he also tortured and killed with his little henchmen so many people. He would kidnap them and torture if they wouldn't submit. And I mean, I can't even imagine, but if they wouldn't submit, they would be tortured and then they would be killed. But the attic has actually got most of the paranormal activity, because that is what they call the slave quarters, where he held them. And they actually, in the attic, right past that window in the center of the attic, is still the whipping post.
No.
And a ball and chain that he used to shackle them. Yes. Some of the things that you hear in the house are cries and whimpers, and you even hear rattling of chains, like people trying to get loose and escape. It's very disheartening. And back then, I want to say it was the I think it was around the 1920s or something. There was a man who's actually, there's actually a town in Illinois named after him, Hickman Whittington. And he was a self-described exorcist.
Oh.
Yes, he was a self-described or self-taught exorcist. And he was a very healthy man, not a single medical problem. He went into that house, and later that night, he got violently ill and died all of a sudden that night. Don't know why. Don't know if it was something that he dredged up, but he was a healthy man. By all accounts, he was very, he was in perfect health. But he died that night after being in that house and trying to exorcise the spirits. And another interesting thing, and I always found this one to be, kind of cool. two Vietnam vets from the 19. They were. It was in the 1960s. They decided they were going to try and spend the night in the house, and especially spend the night up in the attic, which I said is where most of the paranormal activity is. They didn't last too long. They went out of that house in the dark of night screaming, and they said that they were being like surrounded by shapes of like ghosts, but also of non-human beings.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
yeah, and it terrified them. It literally terrified them. But the rattling you could hear in every part of the house. There have been shadows seen in different parts of the house, but that attic is the most terrifying. And even in the hottest of summer days here, we have a lot of humidity, a lot of humidity. So when it gets hot here, it is literally feels 10 degrees hotter with the humidity.
Right.
The attic, which should be the hottest place because heat travels up, there are cold spots where you are shivering in the heat of the summer. There are just cold spots that don't go away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now, and this house used to be open for tours. I think they started in the 1920s. And then the state of Illinois bought the house, and they were going to rehab it, restore it. And then they were going to turn it into an educational tour because of the dark history. And it has, for the last, I want to say 3 or 4 governors, it has slipped through the cracks. Nobody has done anything. And if you go there, there's a big sign at the end of the driveway saying, that trespassers will be arrested on site. But they haven't done anything. And I don't know if it's because people don't want to work there because it's too haunted. But it definitely, it has a very long history. I'm hoping that Illinois finally restores it and opens it up because I think it's a very important part of history to remember.
Right. I think they should do some soul rescues and clear some stuff out of that house. That's for sure.
There have been several paranormal investigations there that have verified the hauntings.
I'm intrigued where they say they saw non-humans. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
Did you see?
That it reminded me of, I wonder if it was like some kind of shape-shifting thing that they saw, but they definitely saw apparitions surrounding them. And then they saw these non-human figures surrounding them, like very dark, very, you're talking about 2 guys who were in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And saw a lot of combat and a lot of stuff. And they were scared out of this house to where they ran down 3 flights of stairs and ran out. Didn't even take their stuff, just ran.
I think a lot of people can handle stuff that we know, like this is a person and they have a knife or they have a gun or whatever. Okay, there's this real person. We start getting into something that you could see through that's there and you don't know how to deal with it. People get really, really scared. But with those cold spots, you wonder if there's some portals to, like they say, other dimensions and other dimensional beings, that can slip in and out.
Yeah, and it's too bad that you can't get, I haven't been able to find on the internet since they closed the tours down. That attic is so creepy. I mean, there's a center aisle that goes down 50 feet long, and on each side there are 12 different stalls where they used to cram human beings into them like cattle. I think I would be terrified going in there without knowing the history, but let alone knowing the history and the suffering that went there.
Yeah. What are you walking into? Those things don't just go away, but they get stronger or bigger or whatever. Especially the people come in that are looking and they're fearful. But when I was looking for photos, I did see the big sign that you can't go in there. I thought, what a shame. The history of what happened needs to be told for sure.
I think at first it was budget because the first governor, it was Governor Blagojevich, was the governor who purchased this from the owner. And he had budgeted for the house to have renovations. And I don't know what came up, if it was a natural disaster. It could have been the inland hurricane we had. But money was diverted, so then it was put off. And we've had several governors since then. And I actually wrote to Governor Pritzker and said, you could be making money on this house that would sustain the small communities around here and educate people to the dark history of Southern Illinois during the slave trade. But of course I never heard back.
No, that's too bad.
But yeah, I wish that he would take the time to invest, because even if they put in $800,000 to repair it completely and do the landscaping and fix the outbuildings, they would make so much more back in tours and letting ghost tours come back in and letting people do paranormal investigations of the house. It's quite telling that they haven't done anything. And I think the longer it sits empty, I mean, I can ask you, I think the stronger the ghosts get.
Oh yeah. And then and the property goes in disrepair. And and I don't know when this picture was taken, but it could be worse off than this picture. And that's too bad. We need to save our historical buildings.
Yeah, this looks fairly recent because someone took last year, I think it was last year or the year before, someone took drone photos, and this is about what it looked like. So, as a matter of fact, I think since when the drone photos were taken, they were actually mowing. So it's possible that they started at least mowing the property again.
I do feel like that they need to save this one because it has a horrendous past, and the truth needs to be out there to show generations ahead what happened.
Yeah.
This was truly sad. Very, very sad.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm going to take that one down. There we are. There we are. Hi to the new people that came in.
Hi.
Now, we have another house that we're going to do, which I have actually seen in person. And I wrote a college paper on it. And it's like probably the most intriguing house, don't you think, Cara, that people think about in America when we go for haunted?
I do. And yeah, between that, the Whaley and the old slave house, we have picked 3 of the most haunted houses in America. This is a pre-1906 picture of the Winchester house. And if you notice, before the earthquake of 1906, the Winchester house actually had 7 floors plus the towers, which are now all gone. They lost the top 3 floors and the towers during the earthquake. But the history on the house starts with Sarah Winchester. She was born in 1839, and she met and fell in love with William Winchester, who was the heir to the Winchester gun manufacturing company. And they were married in 1862. See, she was so pretty, I think. I think she had an elegance about her. And unfortunately, in 1866, in June, they had a beautiful daughter named Annie. And she suffered from a protein deficiency disease. I'm going to say it wrong. It's marasmus. She couldn't digest food properly. And they also call it one of the withering diseases. So, unfortunately, a month later, their daughter succumbed to this illness and died basically from starvation. And that shaped the pain and grief in her in her life. As a matter of fact, when she died, they thought they were going to find this big vault of money, and when they opened it up, the only thing there was a lock of her daughter's hair, because that was what was precious to her, not the money. That was what was precious to her. But her tragedy goes on. Go ahead. Sorry.
That was so sad. I remember, them talking about they had the safe and what could be in it and all that. And there was a lock of the baby's hair.
Yeah, and they never had. And I don't know if it's because her husband started suffering from tuberculosis, or if they couldn't conceive again, or maybe she was so afraid that another child would carry that gene. I mean, well, they didn't know about genes then, but didn't know if another child would end up that way. But she had tragedy come 15 years later, when she lost her husband, William, to tuberculosis in 1881. And within a year of William dying, she lost her mother and her father. All of her lifelines were gone within that year period. So she was a little susceptible to charlatans, I call them. And there was a psychic medium who really wasn't. They were just someone out for money. I think she originally went, if I'm not mistaken, Debbie, she went there to try and communicate with her husband because of the grief, didn't she?
Well, yes, and the lady would do the seances and stuff.
Yeah.
And then of course it went on to the Winchester ghosts and all that.
Right. Well, I think, honestly, I think Sarah actually was herself a psychic medium, but we'll get into that when we talk about her moving out west. This woman told her that she needed to move out west, and she needed to build to appease the ghosts of the people who were murdered by the Winchester rifle and the Winchester guns. So she moved out to the San Francisco area and started construction on this house in 1886. And eventually, she just kept building and building. But eventually, at some point, she had built a seance room, which no one was allowed to go in. I believe it had purple velvet and black velvet. It was very serene for her. But she would go in there and she would hold her own seances by herself. And the next day, she would have drawings of rooms that she wanted added to the house. Now, the construction on the house went on from 1886 until she died in 1922. And there were, I believe that she had a lot of ghosts come see her. And I don't know if it's because of how the house was built. She has stairs that lead to nowhere. She has doors that open up on a 2-story right to fall to there's the stairs. Doors that open up to the outside, and just very odd angles and things. As a matter of fact, this house is 24,000 square feet. It has 10,000 windows, including thousands of handcrafted stained glass windows, which is incredible. It has 2,000 doors, 160 rooms, 47 staircases, some that lead to nowhere, 17 chimneys, 13 bathrooms, 6 kitchens, and 52 skylights. It is the most iconic and probably one of the most haunted houses in America.
You know what, Cara? The one thing that she did is she gave a lot of work to that area. There was lots of jobs. People made money and they prospered all throughout those years of building. She had even doors just hanging from the ceiling and panes of glass hanging from the ceiling. And it's the most odd thing where you would just go up a couple stairs, and then they would narrow to nothing. There's a wall. And the docents do get lost. I think they have a way of communicating, but they do get lost in the vastness of that house. Can you tell me, the earthquake brought down the big tower on the top?
Yeah, it brought down all the really tall tower, the one behind it, and then that one over on the side. It brought down those three on top of the top 3 levels. So the house, and believe me, there were some fires that happened too, and the construction crews that worked 24 hours a day. They never stopped. It was nonstop construction. They tried to repair those floors and rebuild them back up, and then the ghost told her to build out instead of back up. So that's why it got more expansive out, and it's only 4 stories today, and the towers are no longer, they did not rebuild the towers. But
that's kind of too bad. They're really cool. But when you see the pictures now, it's just really down here.
Yeah.
And but that is phenomenal. And I think there was a little bit of myth that she needed to keep building, and as long as she built, she would stay alive. Apparently, that didn't work.
Yeah. That's what that psychic had told her. But she was also to appease these ghosts as some kind of reparation, give them a place to haunt. And I think that's why so many staircases end where they do.
The ballrooms, dancing.
Yeah, all of the rooms, it seems like they have a specific purpose. And that was what was interesting when I watched the horror film Winchester. It was interesting that they talked about her sealing up rooms as she trapped ghosts or something in there. That didn't happen. But I thought, that's kind of an interesting concept or take on what she was doing. She was inviting ghosts into certain parts of this house to keep them from haunting her, because she always felt haunted. So, and then of course there were some construction workers who died, and then instead of moving on, there are construction workers that are actually in that house. I think were you gonna talk about Clyde, or did you want me to talk about Clyde?
Well, I think I can, because I happen to have it right here. Yeah. And so there was a few ghosts that they talked about. And he was the handyman, right?
He was one of the right one? They call him a handyman, but he was actually a construction worker, and he was a real person. They just don't know his name.
Right. Well, according to what I'm looking at right now, they say they see him as an apparition that with jet black hair, and he also is repairing the fireplaces in the ballroom, or pushing a wheelbarrow, and sometimes I see him, going down a long dark hallway. So a lot of people see him. And I sure try to take pictures of him in the house.
Yeah, well, there's an actual, and I couldn't get it to you fast enough. Also, I didn't know if it was copyrighted. There's a picture of him alive with one of the construction crews, and that's the person that everyone said, that's the guy we see, and he's wearing overalls and a boater's hat, and he's got the Victorian mustache. And they describe him to a T, and that's the person in the photos. They just don't have a name for who that was. It's not written on the back of the picture or anything. So, and I don't know if he died during the construction or during the earthquake, or, I don't know. But his ghost obviously wanted to keep working.
I think a lot of people, if they were in a certain place all the time, if they're not going to go on to the other side, they may go back to where they're familiar and where they worked at. When you look at it being working 24/7, it never stopped. They were pounding hammers and building all day long, every day. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. And so he's one of the ones that can be seen there. And, of course, Sarah herself, people see her probably in hallways and flitting around and everything. She didn't seem to be a very tall person. She seemed to be kind of small. And I know they were doing a tour, and the tour guide saw something and went to investigate, and swears that she saw Sarah go down and around the corner. So that would be really scary, I think.
Yeah. I definitely scary for me.
Yeah. So let's see. I think we have the hand. We have the
Yeah.
people. There were so many people that were working on things and everything. And there is a story that early one day about the fireplaces, and they were called the Hall of Fires. And the house was dead quiet before the tours got underway. And this guy was working up on the ladder, and he felt someone tap him on the back. And he turned to ask what the person wanted, and nobody was there. So he just thought he imagined it, but when he went back to work, it sounded like somebody was pushing him on the back, and that was enough. And he got down the ladder, and he just really hightailed it across the estate and started working on something else in another room, because he just figured that by tapping him on the back and pushing, that ghost didn't want him working in that hall that day, which is crazy. Is that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy.
Oh, too, that tour guide that saw Sarah, she also heard a sigh. You know how sometimes you just go, ah.
Yeah.
So she did hear that going down the hall too. And so maybe that was just a sign of Sarah just, like just kind of giving out her frustration or whatever it was that she felt all those years. And, it's got to do something to her mind to hear this construction all the time and keep building. And she's being fed all this stuff by this, fraudulent charlatan, as you called, taking her money and telling her to keep building, building. That kind of goes into a little bit of shaking up anybody's sanity.
Yeah. And then of course she started communicating herself, which there have been some security and I think some other people who are, I want to say caretakers or workers there, who after it is closed, they have actually heard someone in the seance room.
Oh, wow.
They believe it's her. So,
Right.
And then of course, those shadow figures that are always lurking.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that all kinds of things happen. They hear music, and there's a room for everything in this house. Yeah. And I remember as we drove by, it was just unbelievable because, you could see part of the house and all the rooftops, and it just was like massive, just massive. It's so hard to wrap your head around a house that big. But just interesting, so interesting. But it has to be a tourist place because it's really unusable. You can't. You're gonna get lost all the time, and places legion and nothing. You better do a Hansel and Gretel thing because I can't imagine getting around in that house.
Yeah, and when she was living, her niece did live there for quite a while with her family, and I think her niece was widowed. I think her niece lost her husband early too, but her niece actually is the one who inherited the house. And I couldn't imagine. I think I would go absolutely. I'd be scared. I think of some of the rooms and some of the things. I don't think it's all dark, but I would be scared of certain rooms, especially when they've done TV shows and stuff where people like even what was Zach Baggins or whatever, he went there and he did an investigation, but his one of the people he interviewed, she said she told them she will not be the last one in that house at night. She wants out before others. She does not want to lock up, and there are so many rooms, there are certain things that they have to lock up at night that you can, you can get lost. But she's had experiences with run-ins with ghosts and stuff, and she's like, no, I won't be there at night by myself.
Just being in a place where that's so massive, and then you're alone is a scary feeling too. And when all these ghost shows where they go in and they are all by themselves, I go, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Be there with others.
I feel the same way. I don't think that that's normal.
Debbie jogged my memory. The doors going nowhere and the halls and everything were to confuse the spirits to keep her safe from them.
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
She did a lot of that. And that's, I think, why there's also 52 skylights in the house.
Wow.
I think that that's why there are 10,000 windows, and many of them are the stained glass. I think there were a whole bunch of little goose eggs that she put in there to keep herself safe from the ghosts because she was terrified of them.
I would definitely live there.
You would?
I would. I would.
Would
you?
I don't. I'm not sure if I would actually live there full time, but I think it would be a nice 30-day paranormal investigation living there. I would have 6 kitchens to choose from, so the one that was more gourmet for me would be fine, as long as the ghosts concurred on what I was cooking. I think it would be interesting. I do. I think it would be interesting, especially being able to go into her seance room at night. Not do a seance necessarily, just be there. Oh, so yeah.
So you guys, would you go and stay with me? Because I would totally live there. I would. Absolutely.
If you buy it, I'll move in. But I'm telling you right now, if anyone pulls my hair, knocks me downstairs,
no
way,
or
does anything crazy, my butt is on the next plane out of there.
Well, you don't want to get pushed downstairs or any of that kind of stuff. But, when I do paranormal investigations, my hair goes straight up here as tight as I can get it, because they do pull on hair. It wouldn't faze me if they did, but just so I can go do my work and do what I need to do, I make sure that my hair is not right there, easily accessible for them to do anything. Would you put in the protections? Can you imagine smudging that house?
I was just saying, do you know how many mediums and shamans and priests that we would need to go from room to room, and we would have to decide how to do it because we want to push them away from one side of the house at a time so we can finally get them to the, to wherever the portals are. We'd have to go through the whole house, find the portals, and then start sweeping.
Can you imagine? We would have buses of shamans, and we would have probably witches, high priestesses. We would have everybody, psychics, mediums, everybody with sage and holy water, some priests. It'd be great. It would be really great. It'd be fun. But you do have a fan of your cooking here. Brandy said she'd stay if you cooked.
Yes, I will do all the cooking for everyone who's there to help smudge, salt, perform an exorcism. I would be the cook for the whole group. I would do that.
Can you imagine? Because some of the spirits will go, okay, who you want to possess? We've got hundreds of shamans here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no.
Because they're going to possess the chef because maybe one of them was a chef in a former life.
Oh, they'll be cooking. I'll say, what are you making? No, I think that would really be interesting. Absolutely. But when you have bigger spaces, to do it would just be impossible. With this house, it would be impossible. And sometimes I get people that have the higher, darker things. And, there's a time where you draw the line. You say, pack up and move. And I've never been one to want to say that or anything. But when you get something that's higher, and this house is bound to have, here's nice little Sarah, and there's, something from another dimension, so you have to know that there's probably all kinds of stuff in there. People are bringing stuff in. And if I was a ghost and I was floating around, I would go, hey, this is my house. They know me, and there I would go.
You have to wonder too, since she died and she's still seen wandering the house, are the ghosts haunting her ghost? Are they tormenting her or following her or something now that she's in their realm? It'd be an interesting thing to know.
You know what? Some of them don't know what's going on, and she might just be going about her own business, what she remembered doing when she lived in the house and overseeing things and just walking around. And a lot of things can be imprint in the energy into space, because these construction people came every day, or the people came and cleaned, or the people came and were pounding, the nails every day. You're putting the energy into that space. And so it just can be that something is residual energy. There's portals, there's, all kinds of different creature things in there, and the ghost and little Sarah running around. So lots of stuff, but what a neat house.
Yeah.
We got to do some kind of a meet up there. Wouldn't that be fun?
I would love to do that and do a whole tour. Heck, I'd like to know if they would allow us, since they have a lot of paranormal investigations. I would love to have a group of paranormal investigators go with us and just hit that whole house in one night. Especially at 3 a.m. because that's the witching hour is 3 a.m.
They may be like Hearst Castle. I've taken tours there, and it's so big that you have to take 3 tours. There's many tours that you can take. And I bet this house is the same thing. Break it up. They make more money that way. But I bet you there's a tour of this, a tour of that, type of thing. Because this is like, that would take, like, we're there for backpacks to camp for, a couple of days. There's a lot.
Well, I know going down the line, when we hit the castles in Europe some of them are way bigger than this, we're going to be hitting a lot of hauntings, especially Dracula's castle.
New fun. Vlad the Impaler?
Yes, and there's actually 2 different castles.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and one of them is still owned, get this, from direct line descendants of him.
Well, we have a few minutes, so what are we going to be doing next week?
Next week, we are going to be talking about some more houses that are haunted in the United States. One of them is going to be the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, which has a very dark and tragic history. The Franklin Castle in Ohio, and a couple of surprises.
Ooh, so fun!
So we're gonna have fun with some ghosts. I mean, maybe we'll hit some Hollywood ghosts.
Oh, and we hope to have a guest with us next week, and maybe the week after, somebody with a ghost story. I did get a message.
Yeah.
I got a message that somebody wanted to come on and tell a ghost story also. So if you guys have a ghost story, just send me a message at psychicfixes@gmail.com and tell me about it. And you can come in just with audio, or you can come in and like us and we can see you. And this is the fun part, is getting, almost everybody has a ghost story. If it's not a ghost story, it's going to be like, wow, what kind of coincidence? What are the odds type of story? So, I mean, this is the place where we want to talk about it, because this stuff is real. It's real.
That's right. And the following week is when we're going to start talking about personal ghost stories in haunted houses that people have lived in. And we do have a guest for that one too, who's got a couple of ghosts to talk about. And
it's awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait. You guys, Cara does have a tip link. You can see it scrolling also in the description for her wonderful storytelling. And if you want to donate, that's always appreciated. And we will be seeing you next Saturday. And it's 6 p.m. Pacific. And what time your time, Cara?
8 p.m. 8 p.m. my time.
So please tell everybody about us. It's always interesting talking about all these, historically correct things. And, when I tell you a personal story and it's about a ghost and something flooding in my house, it's true. It's true. We got to know that this is real. Almost everybody has a story.
Oh,
And this podcast is going to go further. We're going to get on the radio. We have some projects we're finishing up. We'll be on the radio, and we can't wait to talk to you guys about your personal experiences and bring on people and really discuss this, because what the heck, we have this happening. And communication is real. I do thousands and thousands of readings, and they're validated. I'm like, you guys, come on. I'm communicating with the other side, and it's the time. This is the time to discuss this and to try it out. Well, Cara, any last words?
I am just so grateful that you guys tuned in to watch, and I look forward to next week and some more haunted mansions in the U.S. So it's gonna
come back and see us and tell everybody. Thank you guys for sharing the show, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.